Emma specifically scouts talent. I mean, we kind of know this. O'Brien published a lot of debut illustrators, debut authors, and I've seen you at different events kind of scoping out the illustration work and the animation work. So Emma has an eye to the ground, kids, in case you're interested.
Well, yeah. Sorry,
do you look on social media? Is that something
yes.
that you recommend
yes.
illustrators do?
Hello, everybody, and welcome to WonderFest, a celebration of Irish children's books in 2021. And thank you so much for coming to us tonight. I'm Connor from the WonderFest team, and WonderFest is brought to you by a team of Irish writers and illustrators in association with the Pavilion Theatre and kindly sponsored and supported by Children's Books Ireland and DLR Libraries, and is funded by the Arts Council of Ireland. But first, just to let you know that we have a really exciting, really good panel today, and I'm going to hand you straight over to Margaret Suggs. So, Mags, if you'd take it away.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us. I'm Margaret Suggs. Most of you would know me as Mags. And this is the panel discussion on getting into the children's book field, and we're focusing on illustrated picture books. We are here tonight with support from Children's Books Ireland, and I have for you Tarsila Krüse, Ashwin, Chacko, and Emma Byrne, if you want to join us. My name's Mag, and hi everybody. I'm a practicing illustrator. I was head of illustration at Ballyfermot College of Further Education, and I'm not just a proud member of Illustrators Ireland, but I have the honor of being on the board of directors for Illustrators Ireland, and it's a dynamic organization. I'm a regular promoter of illustration and rights for illustrators because it's not an easy job, and we have people here to support me in my statement this evening. It is a gig-to-gig job. We have to support ourselves, promote ourselves, research ourselves, network for ourselves, bid on and pitch for jobs, do sketches and reworks, color plans, tweaks, revisions, everything. And a lot of us do that while we're juggling another job or several clients at the time. And it keeps it exciting. But I wanted you to meet these people in person and hear what it's all about from them. So to introduce you to who we have tonight, I have Tarsila. Give us a wave there, Tarsila. Yay, I have Tarsila. Tarsila Krüse is a children's book illustrator born in Brazil. She's lived in Ireland for about 15 years now. I'm afraid she's losing count because she only said about 15, and I'm thinking, Anyway. Tarsila is a self-taught artist, and she has children's books published in Ireland, most of them in the Irish language. Says you what? We'll talk about that, I'm sure. Her most recent book, My Little Album of Ireland, is the sequel to My Little Album of Dublin. Do you have it there? You can just give us a wave with it. And yes, thank you, my lovely assistant.
Thank you.
Her artwork is inspired by everyday life, and in Tarsila's own words, she aims to help both children and grown-ups connect with their inner happy feelings. So yay, welcome Tarsila.
Thank you very much, Max.
Yay. Next we have Ashwin. Give us a wave there, Ashwin, yay. Cool. Ashwin Chacko is a storyteller and motivational speaker based in Dublin. He specializes in positive visual storytelling and helps companies connect with their audiences through illustration and design. He likes to capture social interactions with bold lines and shapes. His compositions focus on a strong use of character mingled with typography, and he describes his work as positively playful. So yeah, you're good at describing your own work. His newest books include A Kid's Book About Justice and The Little Optimist. Is that right?
Yeah.
Do you have those there for us to give us a wave? I'm sure I have pictures of them to show you. Yeah.
The Little Optimist, A Kid's Book About Justice is on pre-order right now. So.
Brilliant. Okay, cool. Okay, and last but certainly not least, we have Emma. Hello, Emma.
Oh.
Yay. Emma Byrne is an artist and graphic designer. And like those are the only two titles that Emma listed when I asked her, but just wait for this. She's also worked at the O'Brien Press for 20 years, where she designs covers and commissions illustrations for all aspects of publishing. So you're really designer, art director, commissioning, blah, blah, on and on.
Jacqueline of all trades.
There you go. She's a graduate of Central St. Martin's and has won numerous awards for her design work. She also illustrates books, including Best Loved Oscar Wilde and Best Loved Yeats, among others. Emma continues to scout and promote Irish-based illustrators, often helping them get published for the first time. So that's everybody here. Welcome and thanks for coming. Yay. So I just wanted to start with some of the basics of becoming an illustrator. And my first question kind of to Tarsila and Ashwin, what did you work at before you were an illustrator? And how did you make a move into illustration? So maybe Tarsila, do you want to go first on that?
Sure. So hi everyone. The way that before coming to Ireland, I actually didn't work with art or illustration at all. Like I said, I'm a self-taught artist, and I pursued most of that as a creative outlet. That, in Brazil, I was a TEFL teacher, so I used to teach English as a second language, and that's the kind of career that I was going to pursue. My goal was to become an English professor in the university I went to, and then I moved to Ireland. And then teaching English in Ireland wasn't really that much of an interesting career. There isn't that many people interested in pursuing that. And my first job here actually got becoming a graphic designer in an Irish souvenir company. So if you ever heard of Carol's Gift Shop, I worked for one of their suppliers, and I was making stuff like this. So if you guys can see,
I have seen that in the shop.
And so if you still find those in the shops, I've designed those like about 15 years ago. And and then that's when I kind of discovered that I could make money out of my skills, my illustration skills, which I didn't know were first good enough. I had no basis to understand that was a feasible career, nor that I had the skills to become a professional artist making things. And when I realized that drawing could actually make money and bring value to things, I knew that because I loved the things, but I didn't know I could do that. So that's kind of how I went into illustration.
So you just tripped over and landed in it.
In a way, because I've always loved art, and I grew up in a house full of books, and I've always been in contact with art in a way. And like I said, I've always done it as a side thing. I've been told off from first grade to university that, I've been drawing in class a lot. Yeah. But it was only when I realized that I had the potential to create artwork that it was good enough to be commercial art, that I applied myself. And then I started reading a lot about illustration and reading a lot about especially children's books, because that's what I thought my style would be suited better for. If the characters have a more of a childlike appeal. So this is the stuff that I was doing 15 years ago, and I thought, maybe that's kind of where I want to go, and that's how I got started, basically.
Cool. And would you still do that kind of packaging stuff if it came along?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Anything that appeals to family-oriented, childlike is something that I would be happy. And even merchandise, anything that's promotional and has value, I would be happy to do. I have done other projects that are not only books, but they do appeal to that side. I've done stationery. It's just it really if you know the audience, then it's much easier to apply your work to and see how it encompasses within your style, but still keeping who you are. You know, you could do lots of different styles, but then you don't become recognized. Like you can see, like Ashwin's style is so recognizable. As soon as you see, you know, it's Ashwin. So it's kind of keeping your own style with the things you do. But then different applications, and being, you know, having, I suppose, the business side, like you were mentioning, we have to have wear all these different hats. So having the savviness to kind of see where your work can fit in and pursue those chances, so you can, you know, have more income and create more and be more prolific and create a career and a portfolio that you're proud of.
Cool. Yay. Okay. And Ashwin, how you were a designer first and an art director?
Yeah, so I actually studied animation and multimedia in uni. And from animation, well, after I finished uni, I jumped into a job in graphic design because I realized I didn't really enjoy the tediousness of animating stuff outside of like doing a little bit of character stuff. So I transitioned into doing graphic design. So I worked in ad agencies as a graphic designer and illustrator. In India, there isn't that much illustration in the sense of like it's not given the respect it is here in Ireland. And so you're not paid well enough to make a living just on illustration alone. And so graphic design was the closest way for me to sneak in that illustration. Then I moved to Ireland 5 years ago, and I was working as an art director, again, in ad agencies for a short stint, after which I transitioned into freelancing as a designer with illustration on the side. And then over the last 3 years, I was able to transition into illustration full time.
Brilliant. And I could see how the animation really comes into your work with the character design aspect. Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems.
I mean, like the foundation was built on that.
Yeah.
And so
Good foundation.
a lot of those aspects will go into character designing and that.
Cool. Okay, now Emma, my first question for you was, have you always worked in design for publishing? But you haven't really. You haven't always.
I've had a checkered career, Max.
Not a checkered past, but a checkered career.
Well, indeed. So I worked at all sorts. I was, when I was in university, I worked as a tour guide. I did a bit of work as a lifeguard. So, you know, if things get bad, hopefully we won't have to go back to there, but they're the sorts of things I've done. But I've worked in design for publishing since 1996, so quite a while ago. And I started out in a small company in London called Writers and Readers. And I was the art editor and the art director for their documentary comic book series, which was a really interesting concept for me. It was taking... Can
you see those on the screen there?
I can see, yes, on the left. So
that's the ones you're talking about.
Yes, Christian for beginners and cinema for beginners. And essentially they took the great philosophers, starting with the philosophers like Freud, and put their ideas into a sequential art documentary comic book narrative, which was a really interesting thing to do, because I was working with an artist and I was working with the author, and it was a really good foundation for the work that I'm doing now, and especially, I suppose, it was reflected in titles that I've worked on in O'Brien Press, like Blood Upon the Rose, which is you know, a comic book about 1916. It was very interesting to take these often very complex concepts and translate them into illustration, and to work with an artist to do that. So I worked there for a year, and then of all things, I worked in a rock music magazine, which is completely different. And that was just a lot of fun. And it was working on photo shoots with bands, and you know, these were the days of magazines like Ray Gun. So you know, you could really experiment with what you were doing on the internals. So I worked there for a year, And then I worked for a newspaper, News International. I worked for the Times Literary Supplement and the Times Educational Supplement. And I worked for a magazine, in particular for the TES. And then I came back in 2001. I came back to Ireland, to Dublin, and I've been at O'Brien Press ever since. So yeah, all sorts of routes. And as a friend of mine said, books found me again. Because in college I worked a lot with books and book ideas and editorial design. And there's my very messy studio, which you can see. So I work in I have a shed, which I call my girl shed, which is out at the back of the house. And so I have an art desk there with where I do some sketches, of concepts and see how they might work visually. Then they go into the computer. And then I have my computer desk should be there as well, which is on the other side of the room.
Oh, I probably didn't show that to make everybody think that you were just messy.
Oh, right. Well, you succeeded, Mags. I actually do have a fairly organized a computer desk.
This is Ashwin's studio, and this is Tarsila's studio.
Oh, they're so tiny. They're so tiny.
And then we get Emma's.
So there you go. Thanks. Yeah. So
you're
it's
the designer here. What the hell?
No, definitely not. Yeah. So mine is the chaotic one. And I had a TV crew here last week because we were working on something for the Book Awards, and I did tidy it up a little since. So I promise. But what can I say? I work well in a little bit of chaos. Yeah.
And this is your home studio. This isn't in O'Brien's offices. Okay.
Yes. So this is my. I have a structure out the back, and I have one end of it is the art desk with the plants, and there's you can't see it, but there's a window, and it just so there's a huge, like a 6-hectare field behind, and so there's a really nice view, and then the other end is the computer. So yeah, so it's like a little cave, as you can see. And now I feel very embarrassed. Thank you.
Oh, don't. We'll put it back on Ashwin quickly.
Thank you.
And now you'll look at something very tidy there. There you go.
Yeah.
So I was going to ask people to describe their studio and their working week or their working day. So Emma's given us a little bit of a taste there, but I suppose Ashwin and Tarsila, do you actually spend your time drawing and planning to draw, or are there a lot of other tasks that kind of fill your day?
Admin, the time killer.
Yeah.
Same for you, Tarsila, maybe?
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely. I mean, Ashwin, do you want to give it a taste, and then I'll give a buffer around it?
Yeah, sure. So like my morning, I'll start by answering emails and checking in with clients, making sure everybody knows what's happening. Clarity is your best friend as a creative working with other people. So being as clear as you can with emails. Then after that, depending on what client work I have, I might work on that. And then it's also planning for social media, because you got to get your presence out there. So I have a strategic plan for each day of the week, which that way I don't have to overthink it, and I sort of know what direction I need to go with that. So marketing yourself.
Yeah. And what about you, Tarsila? Does that sound familiar?
It's close. I'm not that organized. Maybe my desk was a bit more organized. Not really. But my day starts with, again, checking emails. Just a reminder that both Ashwin and myself are parents. So we also juggle like home life with work. So it's not just like, we wake up and we do whatever we want, which would be so nice, but as well we have the joy of having kids, which is amazing. So I would start checking on emails, usually priorities. I'd sort them out into follow-ups, things that I need to check on things that could wait, and things that I want to read through, because newsletters or interesting things that I want to learn or develop my career, courses, whatnot, that goes into something that I need to check. That usually happens at night or during the weekend. So those would be like the buffer areas that I can use to do that thing. But then because I collect my son and we spend the afternoon together, he doesn't have childcare, and my husband also works from home. So it's just the two of us. We're both from Brazil, so we don't have, sadly, aunties, grannies, or another support network. So that's how we do it. And so in the morning, my morning time is my precious time, and it's a time that I need to get all the work done. So it starts kind of early, and then I try to cram in, hopefully, if I'm on very good day, 2 to 3 hours of the illustration work, whatever that work is. And then I add social media if that's possible. And of course, keeping in touch with the clients, delivering, whatever needs to be delivered. So all those things need to go. And then, like Mag said in the top of our conversation, I might be juggling 2-3 projects. So I might be working on multiple projects in one day or in different days. And then we have meetings as well. So we might be on calls. We might be meeting people.
You might have a panel discussion in the evening.
We might have a panel discussion in the evening, and then we have to cook dinner and bedtime. But then, there are all these things. I'm not going to say it's not hard work. It is, but if you are organized enough, you can find those lots of time to make those things happen. And if you plan them well, then...
Sorry, do you think balancing your time is probably the hardest part of the job? I'm talking to you as a mother as well.
Well, every day is different. And even I could be out doing workshops. At the moment, I'm doing regular workshops with the school in Dundalk. So I would be driving out as well. That's a day that I would be completely out doing workshops as well.
Traveling.
So I suppose is having an organized schedule really really helps. It's a bit like being a kid. If you have everything set out, like this is what you're going to do now and this is what you're gonna, it mostly works out.
Yeah. And Ashwin, for you, what's the hardest part?
I suppose initially it is just being strategic about your time. So how you organize your time, once you've taken the time to do that, it usually works like clockwork. And then also factoring flexibility for opportunities that might come up as well, because that's the advantage of, say, being someone who works from home. If it's a sunny day and it's really nice, we'll go to the beach with the kids. And so having that flex time in there for, extracurricular is part of the lifestyle we want. And that's why if you schedule things well, then you can create space for these opportunities.
That's true. And for you, Emma, you were talking about having to balance 30 and 40 books at a time. Do you have any brain power left?
Well, I suppose, you can be the judge of that. No, I suppose that, a lot of organization. My day is very disciplined, I suppose, and it's part of the reason I have my little studio at the back where I get up in the morning, I have breakfast, I come out, I open up. If the winter now, the heat, I put on the heating. I have a little sort of routine. I have my coffee, and I'm here then until 1 p.m. So that can be, can be Zoom meetings, it can be actual design work, it can be coming up with concepts, and I kind of mix it up throughout the day. So I'll spend a bit of time, obviously, if there's a meeting that's a standard time, then I'll work for a little bit on coming up with a concept if it's a time of the year where I'm working on concepts for covers, and then I'll change to something else. So I suppose the fact that you have a lot of different things happening, I kind of dip in and out a lot, and then I'll come back to something. And I think that keeps it interesting, for one thing, because you're constantly moving around. And then I'm answering some, a query on email, or I'm working with an illustrator and giving feedback, or they're sending me in some stuff that they've done, and I'm trying to think about where to go next with it. So you're constantly changing things. And then, as I say, I lock the door at 1 o'clock and I'll go and I'll have either some lunch, or I'll go for a walk, or I'll go for a swim. I take that hour, it's like,
Yeah, that's
like,
important to
yeah,
take the time.
absolutely. I just take that time as a break. I come back at 2, and then I usually finish 5:30. And then I'm not a parent, but then I'm, cooking a meal for my partner, or I've got, something, seeing my parents or whatever, I try then to close it off at 5:30 and park it. And then, then I come back the same thing the next day. So yes, you're juggling a lot of different things, but I suppose you just kind of get to what works for you, and what works for me is dipping in and out of things, and trying to keep it within the time.
Sorry, I meant to tell the audience, there is a chat box there if anybody wants to join the chat box. Have we a Q&A box as well? Can one of the techies tell me? Yes, we do. We have a Q&A box. So if anybody has questions, I'm going to try to finish with my questions and give you time to ask as well. But if there's anything, Connor, I think, is minding the chat box for me, so he'll interrupt me if there's anything important coming up, and we will get to questions later. I was supposed to say that at the beginning, but I was so excited to start. So sorry about that, everybody. And sorry about that, Emma. I didn't mean to cut across you there.
No.
I was going for you again, Emma.
Oh, more messy studio. No,
not more messy studio. I was going to talk to Tarsila and Ashwin. They have to promote themselves, and I know both of you are really, really active on social media, so I wanted to ask some opinions on that. But Emma specifically scouts talent. I mean, we kind of know this. O'Brien published a lot of debut illustrators, debut authors, and I've seen you at different events kind of scoping out the illustration work and the animation work. So Emma has an eye to the ground, kids, in case you're interested.
Well, sorry.
Do you look on social media? Is that something that you recommend illustrators do?
In the before time, if you want to call it that, before COVID, the before time, I would go to like I've been at Illustrator Ireland events, mags, as you know, or I would go to, a CBI event or something, or I go to like a comics festival, or, maybe not necessarily just purely illustration events. And I would also to end of year shows in college, and just see, who's coming along, who's, who might be interested in going down this route, or I might see an idea in somebody's work and see, is this somebody that you'd be, we could work together. And now there tends to be a bit less of that with COVID. I hope to get back to that very soon. But I have always looked at social media, and I also look at periodicals at magazines. So I would go and look, like I might see something in the Irish Times, the magazine at the weekend. I look at Total Dublin magazine, or in free magazines like that. So it's not just purely social media, but since COVID, there's a lot more social media where I would go and look. And I think, as you know, O'Brien Press, where, and I've always made a point of really trying to promote and work with illustrators based in Ireland, Irish illustration, and, because you can be bombarded. I am bombarded with agencies from Britain, from Europe, and not that that's not great illustration, it is, but I think it's important to give illustrators in Ireland a voice. And we've got some fantastic, talented people here, yourselves included, folks. There's amazing stuff. But seriously, we're in a golden age. I don't think anybody can deny that. Look at the stuff and it's in the bookshops, So to get long-windedly to your answer, Mags, yes, I look at social media amongst other media. I look at lots of places. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, Ashwin. What's your preferred platform? Where would you go first?
I suppose the first one is Instagram, and the second one is LinkedIn, very closely.
What about you, Tarsila? Is that your order? Because I thought you were a Twitter girl.
Well, it's interesting because I think that the platforms, they serve different audiences. So like Instagram is mostly for the final consumer. So say children and families who purchase my books, or fellow illustrators would usually have that on Instagram. That's where it's at. Oh my God, I sound very old now. Anyway, so so this would be really kind of my, like Ashwin said before, there needs to be a strategy behind you using the platform. So it's not about getting followers or likes, and more really, what do you want people, what kind of message do you want to convey through the platform you're using? So Instagram would really be to showcase the work that I've been doing, keep on top of mind for those people who are on social media constantly, and say I would use LinkedIn, but in a way more mild manner, and it would be more for finding clients so that I could pitch directly to them. So I don't post as often on LinkedIn because the way that I keep contacts there is more networking with trade people. So people who hire illustrators, that's what I would do through LinkedIn. And then I am on Twitter because book people are on Twitter. So the difference is, a lot of people that like writing, or writers, or anyone in the writing realm, they enjoy Twitter as a platform because it is a mostly written platform. So you don't have all the distraction of Facebook. I mean, no one is really on Facebook anymore. I do post there, but it's sort of a what's it called, like it bleeds from Instagram into Facebook because they belong to the same company in a way. But a lot of people go for Facebook for a mental break. They're not really looking to find art there, or to find, you know, things. I don't feel that Facebook is the place that people would go to, because it's not curated that well. You find lots of memes and funny things there. Not that there isn't value to some things you find there is, but it's just, for me, it's not the platform that I use. And then Twitter, it's to engage with publishers and a lot of writers and people who are in the book world. So I would get more on Twitter for those. And then, you know, if you want to like put portfolio, and I'm not going to do that because I haven't done that, but I heard that Behance is a really good platform to use as a social tool as well as a portfolio.
Cool. I would agree with that. Yeah. I think it is important to know your audience. Oh, Em, are you raising your hand?
I am.
Oh, for goodness sake.
So I wanted to say, just people still email me in submissions, you know, and I sometimes, you know, that's also you know, people get published that way just by emailing, I suppose, if they have your name, you know, so it's not just when I'm just going to look for people on and you mentioned Tarsila, Behance. That seems to be a popular one where I find, you know, a lot of people. And we also at O'Brien Press, we run an event annually called Pitch Perfect for Culture Night, and we found there's two books, I think at least, that, you know, illustrators have just come in off the street, as it were, and shown their work, and their books have been published. So I suppose it's not just social media where you can show your work, you know.
No, I agree. I think you need a multi-pronged approach. So I just wanted to have a little fun with some of our audience. Hold on here. I asked the participants to tell me what children's books influenced them. So can you guess who might have been influenced by the Berenstain Bears, Dr. Seuss, and Mr. Min? I think, Ashwin, you made it too easy. Yeah, this is what Ashwin, what was the question? The question that I asked was, what kind of illustrations or picture books inspire you, and what are your favorites? So this is what Ashwin sent me. And this one's not going to be a big surprise either. These are the ones Emma sent me that she was most proud of, that she appreciated the design most of, I think. And the illustration, was it, Emma, as well?
Yeah, working with Shona and then Something Beginning with P was just a very important book, I think. And it was kind of the start of a huge picture book odyssey, really, in the O'Brien Press.
It was a landmark book when it came out, I remember.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then here are some sort of childhood favorites or a more recent favorite for Tarsila. And it's really funny because I could tell, like, I can see the influence that these had on you guys. Well, you know, Tarsila and Ashwin anyway. With Emma, I would have to agree with your choices. I think those are two absolutely stunning books. Absolutely lovely.
A lot of fun.
Okay, I'm being told there's something in chat. Hold on. What's in chat there, kids? Ashwin,
it's in the Q&A.
Ashwin could have illustrated the Mr. Man books. Excellent. Yeah, people are guessing right. Perfect. Okay, what other question had I for you? Yes, this was one. A very important question for this audience is, what does a picture book illustrator absolutely have to have in their portfolio to get your attention? Or I suppose for Ashwin and Tarsila, what did you have to have in your portfolio to get noticed, or what got you noticed maybe? Who will I go for first? Pin the tail on the Emma. Pin the tail on the Emma.
Why not? Why not? I would say when I'm looking for, if I'm looking for an illustrator to illustrate a project where I have, for instance, text already, I'm usually looking for somebody with good drawing ability,
yeah,
and good characterization, and good characterization of people and animals, and that can be through color. You know, if I'm thinking somebody like Ashwin's work, you know, they're really strong color and dynamic shape, and it can be in very simple line drawings. And I think that the ability to implement characterization, if you had to pick one thing, I don't know if you'd agree with that, but I think it's very important.
Oh, I wrote it down. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, Tarsila, what has to be in your portfolio?
Yeah, I love to hear it from Emma's perspective, because she's the one actually hiring people. So it is her perspective. It really considers all the other things that go into hiring someone. Like, you have to consider like the voice of the manuscript or what you need. It's not just like, you know, so characterization is a wonderful descriptor, and I absolutely agree. And I think I could say things like consistency. So being able to output high quality work is very important. And having, say, your own twist in the way that you draw maybe clouds or characters. Like, I'm not saying that it's impossible to have a few styles. That's not impossible, but it is more interesting, and if it helps with people to hire you if they kind of know what to expect from you. So that consistency is very good. But I think above everything, you have to have good ideas and convey those ideas through a visual meaning, because illustrators are visual storytellers, and we have to tell stories, like Emma was saying, through color, through shapes, through characters, through what they wear, to how they behave, to how they sit down or roll. Like, all of those things we're able to visually read. So it's very important to have good ideas and not just generic ones. I think that a lot of people are able to create nice images, but if they don't tell a story, they don't have a hook. So it's just a bunch of pretty images, then people don't see their application. I mean, and I say this with a lot of heart.
Yeah, it's kind of just wallpaper, isn't it? It's not, it doesn't have the concept to make it stand up.
Yeah, that's for books. I mean, if you're doing that for things that just need to be pretty, for like, you know, if it's just like maybe just a pattern that goes on a notebook, or a generic sort of art that needs to have a wider appeal, there is a market for that. It's just in children's books, ideas need to be really, really spot on, and you need to tell stories visually. Yeah.
And Ashwin? What do you have to have? What do you want to see?
So I think, like, what any illustrator needs to remember is that anybody who's going to hire you is a business. And so they're potentially looking for somebody who can solve their problem. So you have to be able to solve a visual problem for them. And in order to get hired to do that, you need to be speaking to the right audience. So you can't curate your portfolio to be like just black and white, really sketchy, really detailed. It looks like something that would be an editorial and then pitch that to a children's book publisher, because that's too graphic for them, or the style doesn't match the message. And so I'd say be clear about the audience you want to present your work to. Number two, depending on what audience it is, you need to create the work you want to get hired to do. So when you're looking to get hired as a children's book author, at least this is, I can only say from my own perspective. I don't know what it's like for other people, but I figured out that the easiest way to do that is to become the least risky option. And you do that by proving the fact that you can actually do the job that you want to get hired to do. And so by self-publishing my book, that basically is one layer of proof saying, hey, I can actually complete a book and I've done the whole thing end to end. And then obviously how you present your stories is the second thing. Like Tarsila said, the idea is key. So it can't just be a pretty picture. It needs to tell a story. So those would be the key aspects, I'd say.
Cool, thanks.
Can I make a note on something that Ashwin said? He said about, do the work that you want to be hired for. And this is important to put on your portfolio. Maybe you get a gig for a client that has a good name, but you absolutely dreaded doing the work, or you didn't like doing it, or it's not in the area that you want to do it. Don't put it on your portfolio, even though the name is there. Just put the name of the client. Don't put the project.
I'd agree 100%.
Yeah, because
I've gotten stuck with that.
Yeah, people don't hire illustrators on the base of potential. They hire on the basis of what they see. So it's a lot of people, like if you love drawing elephants and you have loads of elephants, somebody who has a story about an elephant will look at that elephant and say, they have elephants, they know how to draw elephants, and and then they'll hire you. Yeah, because otherwise, if they have a bird and they see an elephant, and I'm not joking, this happens. They go, no, they don't draw birds, they draw elephants, and they will not hire you. So no, like seriously, like usually, well, it depends on obviously the work, but this could happen. People really hire you on the basis of not of potential. And we all know that, like, I could do that. A lot of, like, I remember before being an illustrator thinking like I could do something like that, but why doesn't anyone hire me to do it? And it's because it wasn't out into the world. So really make, even if it's mock-up work, make something that you think like, I think I could make a great book cover. Go and do it. No one has to go and do it. No one has to hire you. Don't wait to be hired. Yeah. Like, and that goes back to what exactly Ashwin said. It proves to you that you can do the job, and it's there.
Yeah.
Work in context. And then also the other thing is, I like this saying, it's your portfolio is only as strong as your weakest piece. So whatever your weakest piece is, that's what is going to be judged on, not like everything else. So make sure everything in there is strong, even if you have to minimize your pieces to 5 or 6 versus 15.
Oh, much better. Yeah. That was leading me on to ask Emma another question, and it's mentioned here in the chat as well. You've got somebody that can do beautiful illustration work, but they're not very reliable and they're not very good at communication. You might hire them once, but would you go back to them?
No.
If their business acumen isn't,
No, I have to say it's, maybe it was different if there wasn't a lot of talented people out there or something, and you push, but there's a lot of good folks out there, and yeah, it's important to be in a position where you can communicate and answer emails and not disappear off the face of the earth. It has happened. It has happened.
Yeah.
But I'm not then in a hurry to work with that person again, unless, as you say, there's a very strong commercial reason where the book was an enormous bestseller, and if I was working with an author and there was a preference to work with that person. But there's another person that I can find and that I can work with and that I can collaborate with, and I believe we can get the best or even better than what maybe that person has done before, perhaps, and it doesn't have that added stuff.
Yeah.
Really,
Makes your life easier.
Respect who you're working with, and there's not a lot of people like that, there's a lot of illustrators here. Nobody works in an ivory tower. You can't afford to do that. You're a professional.
You can't. Yeah. Professional,
and respect that you work with professionals who are often in a very time restrictive environment where you're preparing something for a bookshop or for a sales team, and that, I suppose, we're kind of segueing here, but that also, you have to show a certain amount of flexibility.
Yes,
that's important. Working if you're an illustrator working with a publishing house, that somebody will suggest that they have a preference for this route, or it should be, can you go and try something like this, and you may not want to do that because you don't think that's again, that's against your core beliefs or whatever it is. But it's a collaborative, I would say. It's a collaborative endeavor, and yes, communicate with people, work on to deadlines, and collaborate.
Yeah, it does. It takes a village, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. Yes, exactly. Yeah, as you know.
So I suppose, what would be a top tip for aspiring illustrators? Get that work in the portfolio, get your drawing down, your characterization down, be sure you've got the right stuff in your portfolio, know your audience, be professional. What other top tips have we got here that we can tell people? I've stumped you all.
Well, I think there's quite, that's quite a lot of information, and if you stick to those quite simple but strong rules, then you're going to a good place.
Yeah,
I would say. Yeah. You don't need to be over complicated about it, I think.
No, you don't. You don't. Ashwin, Tarsila, any other tips?
For me, I think one of the largest tip I can give any aspiring illustrator is the fact to learn to separate yourself from your work.
Don't be so precious. Yeah.
Yeah. Because you need to be secure in your own identity and not take the criticism of the work as a criticism of yourself.
And that is so true. Yeah,
that's across the board in design too. Damn right. Yeah.
I tell the students that all the time. I'm not critiquing you. I'm trying to make your work better. Yeah. And
exactly.
That's what it is. People want you to have the best work you can.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And you do have to pick your battles. If you're working collaboratively, you have to. So
yeah.
And I would also say that you can learn. Everybody learns from process. I don't know if you guys agree with that, but you learn, and because you're watching, what works in a marketplace, and you can see, and you learn from the process of working with that person.
Yeah.
And then that for your next project, you're going to take giant strides again. So it's a positive experience.
Always. Okay, next question. We're getting heavy. We got to lighten it back up, kids. Tarsila, do you feel like you had one big break into illustration that really that broke you in, or was it a more gradual process?
I mean, my very first book was sort of what broke me in a way, because it was my very first opportunity to work on a children's book. And to tie a little bit back to what we were talking about, the collaboration and everything, when you have the chance and not being attached, you have to remember, like Emma pointed out and Ashwin pointed out, that everyone wants that book to succeed in every possible level. There is no one that wants that book to fail. So whenever there is like, you know, a critique, is because it will make the book a better book. In whatever sense it is. So it could be the type, it could be the colors, it could be the characters, it could be the story. All these professionals, and like she said, Emma said, they're professional. Everyone that is involved is a professional to make that book better. And if you think that once you've done a book, the next book will be like that one, it won't. Every book is a new book, and it's a new story, and it's a new learning curve, and it's a new process. Even with Little Album of Dublin and Little Album of Ireland, which are so similar, they were so different in so many ways as well. So it's all about discovering, and you're constantly learning, and you're constantly collaborating. So once you have, say, you got a gig, you got a book, once that's out, you kind of like think, oh, I've got this figured out. You don't. You have to learn it all again for the next book. But that's the joy of it anyway, and that's
every project is that bit different.
So to go back to your question, sorry, that you asked about, like, it was like which one was really meaningful, and I say, because of that nature, they were all meaningful in different ways. You know, I've made lifelong friendships because of a book, and then I've won awards with another book, and then you know, I collaborated with 3 different illustrators in a different book.
I think I have some pictures to show. Hold on. Is this the book you're talking about?
Yes.
Yes.
So Blian an Oran, and it is Osgailga, it is in Irish. And so we won a couple of awards with that. It also went to it was awarded a White Raven, which goes to the International Library in Munich. So it is a very prestigious thing to get. I can't describe it. It's not quite an award, but it is. And that was a collaboration. So it's songs of the seasons, and I illustrated autumn, which is my favorite season. But Brian Fitzgerald illustrated summer, Christina O'Donovan illustrated spring, and Jennifer Farley illustrated winter. So we have a multitude of, like, this is a true collaboration. And it's also a CD. So it's also the collaboration of Tig, who wrote and recorded the songs, and children who were singing in it. So that was a project that was very meaningful for those reasons. But also, you know, getting to be on the RTE guide, which is like the ultimate Irish, you know, proof that I've been integrated with the Irish culture. So I don't know, did I send you pictures of that? Maybe not. I
don't think you did.
Yeah, but
putting this one up there because of the something beginning with P. That was another kind of huge collaboration, wasn't it, Emma?
Yes, absolutely. I worked with Corinna Askell and Alan Clark, and we sort of ran out of time, so I ended up doing some of the illustration as well. And it was just a huge, I mean, there was a lot of these poets hadn't written for children before, which was a big deal. I mean, we got Seamus Heaney wrote for children for the first time. I think that was, and it was just, and I mean, so not only visually was it a big collaboration, but it was Seamus Cashman, who was the editor, had to work with poems from a huge amount of people. And it was a really breakthrough book, I think, because nothing had really been done like that before for children.
Yeah.
And yes, working with Corinna and Alan, and this book, it won a lot of awards as well, and got a lot of attention, and quite rightly so. And it still came out initially in hardback. It was a slipcase edition, actually.
Oh yeah, I think I had the slipcase edition.
So there you go.
You're looking at the bookshelves.
Yeah. So That was the first edition, and it was PLC, and there was a lot of money in the production. In fact, this is a copy I have with all the poets have signed it, which is really, really nice.
Wow.
Okay, we're breaking into Emma's house tonight, and we're going to rob the book.
No. So and that was, it was an interesting one because the poems were different lengths, and they were long and they were short, and Corinna's style is very, very loose and soft, and Alan's is more very structured and very straight. So there was kind of an interesting clash between the two of them, and I think it was a one of a kind, something being with P. Yeah.
Cool. Ashwin, I kind of skipped over you there. What did you have a specific kind of breakthrough into illustration, or was it more gradual for you since you were kind of working as a designer as well?
I think it's been a gradual process for me, but I'd say 2020 was the turning point for me personally. With the pandemic hitting, it actually gave me a moment to pause and assess why I was doing what I was doing. And through that process, I was able to generate a very clear vision for what I wanted my work to do. And because I had a clear vision, I could then create goals. And it's so important to create goals because then you have something to work towards. And there are little milestones in your longer journey to your ultimate vision. And so, for instance, wanting to get published with children's book publisher, that was one of the goals I had for this year. And so you create work and you connect with the right people who will get you to that goal.
God, I can't even set a goal for what I'm making for breakfast tomorrow morning.
That's okay, Max. That's okay. You just focus on the artist goals and leave the breakfast. It's fine. You figure it out.
Who needs to eat? I mean, it's just breakfast. It's the most important meal of the day. Jesus.
You're doing great, Max. You're doing great.
I'm doing fine. Your guys are doing all the work. Okay, so I wanted people to tell me about their recent projects. Let me see what I've got on my screen share here, because you sent me some really amazing some slides, and then I was like, oh God, I'm never going to have time to go through all this, and here I have some time. So look, so Ashwin, this is a recent project from you. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
So this was the project I got to do with Children's Book Ireland, Kids Book Ireland, for their campaign Free to Be Me. And it's a reading guide which has all kinds of different, a themed reading guide all about different diverse artists and illustrators and authors with their amazing books that are in there. So this was a really fun project because I got to create all the little characters and then also create an animation with all the characters. Yeah.
I love the fact that you've got all the different characters, though. It's really nice to see a really good variety there. Was that a challenge for you, or did that come quite naturally?
No, it was natural for me. I think that's part of the reason why they approached me, is they wanted to create a diverse set of characters. The idea was that, no child should not see themselves in a book, and that's part of the deeper ethos of this whole project and the premise for it.
Cool. Okay, so this is you sketching down at the bottom.
Yeah.
What's this one where you're jumping? Is that a coloring book, or what's that?
That was we had an event at the school, so we were getting the kids to color this giant A1, I think, size black placard. So it was there for the kids to color.
Excellent. Okay, whose have I got? Is this? Wait, sorry, my mouse is really mousy. It's squirmy. So Emma, were these your pieces, your recent?
Yeah.
ones?
So this is recent work that I did. So in fact, the one on the left is not a kid's book at all, but it was interesting because it was illustrative. It's and I just thought it's kind of the other side of what I do. So it's we have a series of best love books about, we've one on Yeats and Oscar Wilde, Jonathan Swift, and it's the best of their work in short pieces. And there's usually an editor appointed. Anthony Roach did this one, and it was an opportunity to work with, that really nice Art Nouveau, arts and crafts design that was sort of redolent of Shaw's period when he was about, and that Charles Rennie Mackintosh sort of typography was a lot of fun to work with. And they're always very, for the sort of work I do, they're always very creative and inventive. So that's something I enjoyed working on, because you can just be quite abstract. It's an interesting thing, actually, to take, something that's really, really well known, like Yeats or Shaw or Wilde, and to match it with something that's quite cookie or different. It creates an interesting friction, which makes for often usually successful imagery. And then the one on the right I was working with a new illustrator that I hadn't worked with before. Again, one of my finds, I would hope, Philip Cullen, and it's Erica McGann's new book, Tabitha Plimtock, and it's an amazingly this girl who lives as this world on the edge of the world, and it's enormously invented. It's filled with monsters and creatures, and it's very, very funny. And what was great with this was it was so much fun to see Erica's world, for me as the person bringing the two of them together, to see Erica's the world in her head and his interpretation of that, and that's always a very interesting thing. And obviously then you want the author to say, well, is it going to be happy? Is it going to work? And she was delighted, and I think it worked out really well. And it was just a really because you could be absolutely as wild with, you could run wild with your imagination, and you could, extremely inventive. And I think for an illustrator, it was a gift, and especially somebody it was in their right hands, and Philip was the one. So that was a really interesting one to work on.
Cool. It looks brilliant. I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Now, what do I have? This one, was this your most recent work?
Yeah,
Tarsila?
so
what you're working on at the moment?
Yeah, so those are things that I'm working on at the moment. Well, a special gift is going to be a book for, it was created for a charity called NISIG. It's the National Infertility Support and Information Group. So it's going to actually be distributed freely. And it's a story of this little otter that is going to have a birthday party, and along the way it tells its story that it's been donor conceived. So there are actually two books. One is a donor, a sperm donor conceived, and the other one is the egg donor. So it's like it's basically the same story with minor changes inside, but they're going to be given.
Who's on tech? Can you spotlight Tarsila? I'm just shouting into the Netherlands there, into Never Neverland.
So
anyway, go ahead, Tarsila. Oh, there we go. That's what I want.
Thank you. So the special gift is this story of Little Water, and I created the book alongside with Sive Devlin. So Sive, it's been a friend of mine since we published our book Big Spreelim few years ago, and then we created this to give children an opportunity, parents to give an opportunity to open up the conversation about coming from a donor conceived, having a donor in their story and being from a donor conceived family. So it's a very sweet story, and it has really some nice things inside. It's going to be launched soon. Sorry?
Ooh, I said, who doesn't love an otter?
Exactly, and we chose it to be an otter is a mammal, but also an Irish animal, and like super cute. In real life, they're quite ferocious, but in this book, they're very friendly. So,
and show us the other one. I can't see the one behind it. Oh, look, aren't they gorgeous?
Yeah.
Oh, that's brilliant. I'm delighted to hear about that. Yay.
And the other project I'm working on, I'm actually working on with Emma on it.
Hey. Is this what I need to be showing, or is there something else?
Yeah, no, this is it. Yeah, so the two little images on the bottom there is from a project called Little Love Lessons, and that's a book
Gorgeous.
that's coming out next year. Thanks, Emma.
Oh.
And we're actually through the process of developing the cover and writing the inside, but basically Little Love Lessons came out from my experience being a mom. Is not really a picture book, is more about little love lessons that I've learned through motherhood, because when my son was born, I had postnatal depression and I didn't know. And after going to therapy and dealing with it, I was suggested to write things that I would be grateful for in the experience of being a mother, because that was being very challenging for me. And I thought, well, I don't want to write about it. I want to draw the experience. So I started to draw these little love lessons that Otto, my son, has been teaching me since. And then I made the book. So, well, I'm still working on the book, but it's, yeah.
I love what you said there. You don't write about it, you draw about it. And I think a lot of people don't understand visual people are so visual. Like words don't come first. And I suppose that's strange for you, Tarsila, because how many languages are you speaking these days? You know, but
yeah.
When I look at a page of type, I mean, it's just words. It's just words. It's great, you know. So I think in pictures as well, and I feel like I communicate much better through pictures. I would draw my grocery list before I would write it, you know. So I think that's really important to share with people too. And yeah, congratulations. I'm looking forward to seeing that too. Okay, this was a slide, Emma, that you sent me. That was
this is
as well.
This is a sneak peek. You asked about a few sneak peeks.
Oh, sneak peek. That's right. See, my questions are here, and I've just kind of thrown them out the window.
Oh, who needs questions, Max? So, so this is something, and subsequent. I even have more to show of a few other projects that have just come in. It's been a lot of stuff is coming in at the moment. So this is a book we're publishing next autumn called Billy Conquers Nature Spotting Adventure. And
this is Connor, what's his last name?
Connor Busuttle.
That's it?
Yes, Connor Busuttle. And it's just, it's really, I suppose it's interesting because just the detail, you know, it's kind of an interesting one to talk about as well, because Connor is very, what you might call low tech, I suppose. He doesn't really do, he's somebody who doesn't do much social media. He's somebody that doesn't do, he doesn't have much digitally, and his, everything comes in, he'll do a very rough sketch first, then he draws the line. That'll take him a long time. Then he'll take a photograph with his phone. He's getting a scanner.
Oh, good man. Coming into 2021 here, he's getting a scanner.
And but this work, and it works for him. And I just think I met Connor probably 10 or 15 years ago on one of these events, that, you know, an illustration event in Queen's University in Belfast. I was a speaker there, and we got talking, and 10 years later we worked on our first book together, The Children of Lure, which is up for a Cake, or was shortlisted, I think, at one point for a Cake Greenaway Award in the UK. But this is the latest one, and it's about this little kid, Billy Conquers, who goes through all these different habitats, often where there's endangered species, and this is one set in the coral reef, and you have to find all these creatures. So it's just extraordinarily detailed. It takes a huge amount of drawing, and I think it's really beautiful, and I think it's going to be
really beautiful.
Yeah.
Gosh, you're giving us good previews here. Now, was this a sneak peek for us, Ashwin? Is this your sneak peek?
Yeah, I suppose this was the latest book that I self-published called The Little Optimist, and it's 30 days of creative meditation. So it came off the back of the pandemic. How you're staying positive through pandemic, and so I wrote this book as a response. I practice something called creative meditation, where rather than mind, you fill your mind, you take a principle, an idea, a quote, and then like the cow, you chew the cud. So it's a great picture. It illustrates. You contemplate it throughout the day, and then you consider how can I apply to other people. And so it has lots of little personal stories and quotes to think about throughout the day. So 30 days of that.
And did you write it yourself as well?
Yep.
Oh, wow. Okay. I didn't realize that. I'm just so, because it's only recently that I've even tried to start writing. I'm a real, what have you written for me kind of person, like, where's the text? Where's the text? So that's really impressive that you were comfortable enough to write it as well. That's brilliant. Absolutely lovely. I'm trying to see what else did we have. There's a couple of questions from the audience. I think I've shown all the slides that you had sent me. So I'll have a look in let's see, I'll stop sharing that. I'll have a look in the questions box here. Let's see. Question for Emma. Why do a lot of books have one illustrator for the cover and another for the illustrations inside the book itself? It's more common in chapter or middle grade books.
Exactly. That's a very good question. Sometimes it's a case that the interior of the book is often in black and white, so it's not in color. And if it is in black and white, you might want to work with somebody who has a different skill set to somebody who's working on the cover. So if you're talking about middle grade, I guess you're talking about age 8, 9, 10, that sort of thing. You might want something that's, very soft color, very pastel. I'm just thinking off the top of my head, something that may not necessarily work in black and white. So you're often looking for two different sorts of styles, I would say, and something that works on the cover that may not necessarily work on the inside, and vice versa.
Okay. Yeah, because I'd want to do it all myself. Do you know?
And that's, if you look at Tabitha Plimtock, yes.
Yeah.
If you look at Tabitha Plimtock, Philip did both the cover and the interior black and white drawings, which were very, very detailed. I don't know if I can share the screen or if it's that really annoying to do that.
No, I don't. I'm not sure.
Oh, I can.
Oh, good. There we go.
Bear with me. So that's the interior of the drawing, was like really, really detailed, soft drawing.
Wow.
So you can see this is the guy that did the cover, which we saw, which was
that was much more colorful.
And generally, if I'm commissioning illustration myself, I generally go for the one illustrator. It's easier to work with one person, I think. From an administrative point of view, I would say, if you're working contractually and from a monetary point of view, I think it's easier. And I think B, it gives the project, in my view, a better cohesion as a whole. That if you have the same person that gives the visuals to the front or the cover, as well as the insides. So that my preference is to work with one person. And
I've heard that you should put both in your portfolio, so that if middle grade or chapter books are something that you want to do, that you should put both in your portfolio, so that art directors and commissioning editors know that you can do both and that you are comfortable doing both. And I'd say most illustrators would do that. Maybe if you're new, you might, but I think you would. Okay, I have another question here. Is there any advice for teenagers or youngsters showing an interest in illustration? Courses, info, or courses. Are we going to talk about courses? No, I'm just kidding. Somewhere they can meet peers online or off, something to bring their doodling to the next level. What do you see as good food for the up and comings?
Well, guys, do you want to answer that first? I suppose, since you're in the field. Illustrators, Mags, yourself. What do you think?
I find this quite interesting because obviously, teenagers, it's been a while and the world's changed a lot since I was a teenager. I suppose off the get-go, not gecko,
Off
the
the lizard.
get-go.
Off the lizard, we're going to say.
Off the lizard, because obviously English is not my first language. Draw a lot every day.
Yeah.
That's the basic of basic. It doesn't matter what course you have paid for or what. It doesn't matter the quality of the page you draw on. Doesn't matter the pencil. It doesn't matter.
Let's
what
do
you
it.
have to is draw a lot, because the quantity will eventually, it's practice, it will turn into better drawings by then, observing and kind of going, oh, somebody did this, I'm going to try that. So it's a bit like it's practice. It's the same as a footballer would kick a ball and do just small kicks, which are very basic and simple every single day, and then eventually get better. So I say that would be the very, very, very basic. And then once you have that interest, you can then explore, and especially being a teenager, exploring so many different mediums. So go and try sumi, watercolor, ink, mixed media, collage, go be creative, do whatever. Use a sketchbook as an exploratorium, wonderium of all wonderful things. Just try everything, because you may find a different medium that you can express yourself, and it doesn't have to be digital. It's not because we are in 2021 that we need things to be digital. There are plenty of artists who work with traditional medium and are excellent, and I hire all the time. Hence, Connor. So don't think that you need to fit yourself into the medium to make work. Find the medium that works for you.
As you said, Mags, you think visually, so learn to think visually. Like make that your.
Well, don't stop yourself from thinking visually. Exactly. It's not wrong. It's different.
Yeah.
I agree with you, Tarsila. I think in your teenage years, or in your kind of, when you're building up to your career, don't say, oh, I'm going to be a comic book artist and that's all, and do this. Anything that has to do with art is good. I mean, if it's sculpture or macrame, it doesn't matter, you're creating. I tell the students in my class, think of it as exploring your sexuality. Explore everything while you're young, because, eventually you're going to have to pay the bills with something. So, enjoy it. And a sketchbook. I mean, I'm never without a sketchbook. It's just too handy, And
pursue your curiosity.
Experiment. What the hell, it's.
And go to all the drawing classes that you're interested in. If you're interested in it, go to it. If you're not interested, don't. You're a teenager. It's your prerogative to sleep in. But
there's another thing that. Oh, sorry. You go ahead, Ashwin.
Yeah, I was just going to say, if you can, learn the different traditional techniques, because the digital world is just it's mimicking real life. And so if you understand how the true medium works, the digital will work much better for you, because you have an understanding of how it's meant to look and how those textures are formed. And so digital is just another tool in your tool belt to approach that. And then as far as things you can do, I came up with a thing called Illustrators Unite, where we run once a month workshops on various topics, inviting different guests to speak about their experiences on like children's books, on style, potentially about branding next year. So it's once a month, and there's an online community as well. So you can chat, ask questions to other illustrators, and they'll answer them. So
yeah. And well, as far as courses, I teach out in Ballyfermot, but I would say if you're in a position where you're looking for a course, find out about every course that you're even remotely interested in, because they're all so different and they all have different teachers and different content, and you need to decide what fits you. Do you know, I mean, Ballyfermot's it's the best course, but it's not the only course. Do you know? I'm kidding, everybody. I really am. But yeah, find out and get every interview you can and go to every interview you can. You're interviewing them for a place on the course. They're not just interviewing you. You know, it mightn't be a good fit. And you might go into set design and end up in children's books or vice versa. It's all related. You just don't know. And I'm rattling on, but we have other questions. Hold on.
Can I just say two really great resources are number one, Skillshare.
Skillshare is
it has lots of
good.
courses.
Yeah, it's good. Mm.
And then the second one is YouTube, which is free. There's so much content on there. If you can find the right person, there's lots of good stuff in there to learn.
Perfect. Does anybody else out there have questions for us? I'm having trouble finding them in the.
While you're looking for that, Mags, I would just echo there what Ashwin said. Don't underestimate the knowledge. It's why I look for good characterization in a portfolio and the ability to draw. Those basics are very, very important. I would just reiterate that, you know, don't the digital stuff that can come, that can, you know, it starts with the core elements, and drawing is one of them, as you said.
Totally. Well, you have to walk before you can run.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I have a question here. What do you like most about being an illustrator? You get to draw all day?
I can draw all day.
What about you, Tarsila?
Aspect. No.
Well, what I really like about illustration is actually problem solving, and I am a big nerd, and I love getting, like, when there is a story and you have to figure out who the characters are, and you know, you're a bit like the director of a movie, but that goes on to pages for children's books, especially picture books. So you choose the cast, you choose the lighting, you choose the outfits, you choose how you're going to film the scene, if you're going to do a panoramic view, if you're going to come from the bottom, what ideas you're communicating. So figuring out,
a lot of cinematography in it, isn't there?
Yeah, like figuring out the idea that I want to communicate is, to me, one of the most exciting parts of being an illustrator. And that's, you know, and that's problem solving through drawing. And again, there are plenty of books that people can, you know, go to the library, go explore creative drawing books, you know, for free. Again, Irish libraries have amazing resources, and you can actually order from one. Sorry, I'm pitching the libraries now. You can you can order books from one library and return in another, and also you can have access to any of the archives in any of the libraries in the whole island of Ireland. So it's actually loads of resourceful books that you can find. And again, I reiterate what the three of you have said, is go and find your curiosity and get every book that interests you and read them, devour them. And if you don't think you've learned anything from them, go to the next one.
But you have, you take it in.
Yeah. And that's why another reason why libraries are fantastic. Just go and look at the picture books that are there.
Yeah, there's a lot more choice in a library, because, you know, a bookstore, I love bookshops too, don't get me wrong, I would bring home everything, but you can certainly find more in a library than in a bookshop, because bookshops are often limited with their shelf space.
And you get older books, you know, you get books that are battered and bruised, or they've been there a while, and, you know, they're not maybe on trend market wise, but you'll find them in the library.
And if they're battered and bruised, they were obviously well loved by somebody.
Yes. They're the good ones. They're the good ones.
Here's another question. How much of your business do you try to chase outside of Ireland? Or are you doing enough inside of Ireland? That's for Tarsila and Ashwin. Do you chase work off the shores?
Yeah, I have clients in the UK, and I'm trying to push into the US market. I think it has a lot of potential.
Yeah.
That's where all the big buyers are. It's in the US market. They tend to have larger budgets as well.
They do, definitely. Yeah.
That's why, for sure.
I work some in America and with American publishers and a Belgian publisher recently. And you, Tarsila?
Well, for the moment, I'm keeping within our island because
but you're kept very busy.
I am, because like you mentioned on our conversation, a lot of my books are in the Irish language. And since I've been here for a while, I've been working a lot in that area. It's a very niche sort of area because most Irish speakers are resident in Ireland, and I am becoming a Gaeilgeoir myself, so which I'm very proud of. So so I'm keeping it here because at the moment it really makes sense to me to nourish. I love being part of the Gaeilgeoir community and to provide children who are speakers of the Irish language with, unique, but also, with the works that we've done with the Byrne Press, there's a bit of Irish, but also there's English. So it's really, really great. And here and workshops and things like that also are a nice source of revenue for whoever's staying here. And now abroad, I suppose.
I need to be closing up now because we're running short of time. So the last question here is from Aoife. If you could go back to the start of your professional journey and give yourself one piece of advice, what would it be? I mean, that's a really good one to end on, isn't it? Isn't it? No,
it's a fantastic question.
It's a good one.
It's a hard question. Wow.
I would tell myself, just don't worry about it so much.
I think that's what I was going to say, Mags. I think that's it. Just go with it.
Emma, are we just on the same wavelength? Are we sharing a brain? What's going on? Like?
Just go with it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes I think I'd go back and tell myself, would you ever get the finger out and, get a move on and have a little more ambition and drive? But at the same time, I've had a great time so far. So, okay. Anyway, Ashwin, what's your advice for your young?
Mine would be.
Are we losing Ashwin?
Oh. I missed that.
Check.
I missed that too.
Oh, there you are. Check. No. See, I can never tell if it's me that's frozen or Ashwin. Okay, Tarsila, fill in until we get him back.
Okay, so I'm gonna fill in. I think, it's hard because it's a bit like you're saying, like, what would I do differently in a way, and I think like chill about it is a good one, because obviously we all have all these expectations and anxiety about whatever dreams or goals we have. I'd say keep going despite the challenges, keep going. You will fail, you will make mistakes, and just brush it off and learn
get
from
other illustrators so that you can phone them and say,
exactly,
talk me down.
Getting a nice supportive network, associating yourself with people who are in the same industry as you. So associations like Illustrators Ireland or
Illustrators Unite.
Like anything like that, like you can find peers to exchange and collaborate with and have ideas, and just those things help you keep going. So it's
share the burden.
Learn, don't take the mistakes personally, just keep going.
Just keep going. Well, guys, we're out of time here, so I will say thank you so much for your time and your honesty and your chatter. It was really completely lovely way to spend an evening, I think. And I see the messages kind of coming in on chat now. Thanks for the chat and thanks for the advice. But you made it really easy, and here's my last little screen share there. Thank you, everybody.
And thank you, Mags. You're brilliant.
Thank you, Mags. You've been a wonderful hostess.
Great
I feel like we've been sitting around having a drink and having a chat. It's brilliant.
It's good. It's good to do.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you, WonderFest, for making
Thank you, WonderFest, and everybody.
Ireland. And I think, Connor, you're going to shut it down, are you?
I'm gonna unfortunately stop you guys. Yeah, I could say I was sitting here like this. I feel like I could listen to you guys talk all night. It's been brilliant. Thank you so much to Emma, Tarsila, Ashwin, and of course our chair Mags. This has been my first WonderFest event, of which there are many, guys. So if you're still here listening, there are a couple I want to flag with you. So on Saturday, Tarsila is going to be doing a creativity boot camp for anybody 7+. So think of the littles in your life that maybe they'd enjoy that. On Sunday, then our wonderful chair, Mags, you're going to be doing a masterclass on illustrating children's books. So do check that out. And then on 2 p.m. on Sunday, Mary Murphy is going to be doing a masterclass on writing and illustrating. So children's books. So check that out, especially if you're at this one, Sunday 12 and then Sunday at 2. They're your big ones. You really
I'll be at both.
Yes. Well, you're teaching one of them, so I hope you're going to get that one. So thanks again to all our speakers. Don't forget that all our speakers' books, and as well for our illustrators, some of their prints are all available on our festival website, wonderfest.ie. So that's www.wonderfest.ie. Do check them out. Maybe you could even put them on your Santa list if you're still good enough for Santa to come to you. There's lots more WonderFest events like the ones I just mentioned, so be sure to check them out. Thank you all for joining us, and goodbye. And remember that books are full of wonder. Keep reading, and for this, guys, keep drawing too.